type of appropriate commercial industrial development that Londonderry would truly benefit from in terms of tax revenue, job creation, and lower impacts to the town's quality of life factors such as traffic, service costs, and aesthetics. Those two areas really are already earmarked by all of us. It's the industrial acreage up near the airport, which we're all talking about, and it's Jacksbridge Road. From the airport perspective, this location is ideally suited for the types of businesses that would give us good jobs, good tax revenue, and lower impacts. Jacksbridge Road is also doing that right now. We've got a success story up there that's occurring. Harvey Industries is located there, a close to 400,000 square foot manufacturing facility in this economy is an amazing win for Londonderry, and we now have Penske Truck saying that they're going to move in next door. From the standpoint of how we get those businesses there, a TIF was mentioned. There's a TIF district, tax increment finance district, proposed right now for the airport district in the $14 million range. I, like Sean, am not sold at all that that is the best way to go. And Jacksbridge Road is proving that to us. A TIF was originally proposed for that area. Several members of the public, myself included, spoke against that. The council backed off, and development is occurring without those incentives. And that's what we should do at the airport. We should work with the private landowners, the developers, and the airport in a partnership effort where we all share the load. The funding should not come all from the shoulders of the local taxpayers through that TIF. Lastly, while others in town and possibly some other candidates might look for increased development near Exit 5 for large-scale retail, I do not believe that is viable economic development and would not support such an effort. The net tax revenue received from retail-type ventures, in my mind, and based on the research I've done, proves to be a high-cost burden from a service standpoint. I also don't think that that's the type of development that most of our residents want, because it does directly impact increased traffic. It impacts quality of life factors. So as a candidate, I would spend all of my energy working on commercial industrial areas for appropriate businesses and stay away from retail development.
All right, thank you. Trent, let's go to your first question, and let's start with Paul DeMarco.
Great. Thank you all for coming today. My question is, the council this year voted to cut $250,000 out of personnel costs, citing a slumping economy. If the economic trends continue into next year and another $250,000 are needed, what are the top 5 departments you would look at to skim?
Well, that is an excellent question, and it may very well be something that, if elected, I will be faced with next year. In fact, it's almost guaranteed that we're going to be faced with that next year. The departments that, when you look at the town budget, the top 4 costs to the taxpayer are, I believe it's police first, then fire or roads. I forget which one. One might be ahead of the other, and then solid waste are the 4 largest costs to the taxpayer. The thought might be to hit those first. What I would want to do as a town councilor is carefully look at all the data and determine what the impact would be to services prior to making any decisions. So I'm not going to say that we're going to go, that when you look at the threshold, the first thought would be to hit the police and the fire, and the impact to doing that is going to be a reduction in services. So I would need to look at all the data ahead of time and determine really what the impact's going to be to the taxpayers, and I'm not willing to put public safety on the chopping block for the purposes of cutting salaries. I would start looking elsewhere if necessary.
Okay. Mr. O'Keefe.
Excellent question, Trent. Excellent question. I think the first thing you would have to do, having some thoughts on it, seeing what the council did this past budget season, would be to look at retirements and not replacing people. That would be on both sides. If the school has retirements, not replace the people. Can you get away with it? You have to look at it and see if you can, obviously, to see if services will suffer on the school side. One other thing would be on the town side. If you have retirements from departments, not replace the people. Run the department without the person for a while and see how services go. I'm quite sure that we'd be able to make that work. Another idea would be to combine services. Do we really need two finance departments, one from the school and one from the town? So why don't we combine them? You know, that's one way of consolidating. IT, same thing. The school now has an IT director. Right now, the town has an IT company that we fund. You always hear that we can't combine them. Well, I'm not convinced we can't. That's another way we can possibly combine and save things. These are things that we need to look at as a community. And those are some of the ways that I would look to be able to reduce further as far as the cost of what we're paying right now.
Mr. Vermillion.
Thank you. That is a very hard question. I don't think I can really answer that today in a nutshell. If I can predict the future, what's going to happen, I would probably tell you that public safety is a number one priority for me, and I will not cut that at all. We would have to look elsewhere. I don't like to look at personnel, but that's why we have a budgetary committee. They're the ones who have to make those decisions, and then the town council has to make the final one. And I don't have an answer for you until, if I was there and I can make that decision.
All right,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Brown.
Another good question. And this
We
kind
ask
of
quality questions.
Yeah, this really hits at the heart of one of the most significant challenges and duties of the town council. And Trent, whether as a counselor, I or anyone else would look at specific departments is not necessarily the real question. It's in those departments what's driving the costs. It is correct that, and as a budget committee member, we've provided this information to folks for the last 3 years via our taxpayer white paper. The vast majority of the budget, current budget, as well as the annual increases on both the town and school side, quite simply is driven by the amount of money we spend for our employees through contractual salaries and benefits, labor agreements. 85%, okay? In those individual departments, police and fire represents 45% of the budget. That's the top department in terms of budgetary expense. Solid waste, highway, library, and debt, those are the top 5, okay? 4 of those costs are driven by the amount of employees within those departments and the salaries and benefits that are associated with the contract that's been negotiated by the council and approved by the taxpayers. So as a counselor, my focus wouldn't be necessarily department-driven. It would be looking at the underlying cost factors, which is the staffing associated with these areas. And that is a combination of looking at the amount of people we have for the services they provide, as well as the amount of money we agree to negotiate to pay these folks. That is the real answer to getting 85% of the budget, current and annual increases, more under control. It's not necessarily department-driven.
And Mr. Carrier.
Thank you. To target specific areas for reductions is very presumptuous and difficult to do without knowing the impact associated with the reductions. With that said, the council needs to work with the town manager and the department heads. They're the experts in these areas, and they're the only ones that truly know the impact associated with reductions. If I'm a sitting council member and I don't think the town taxpayers can burden, $250,000 within the operating budget, then that's a direction. That's a policy decision for the town council to make to the town manager. We want to reduce the budget by $250,000. Where is that going to be, and what impact on the service is that going to have? Then we make a sound, intelligent decision based on that. Just looking through the budget briefly, while the other candidates were answering the question, I could save the town $2 million eliminating the solid waste contract. We can take our own trash somewhere instead of having curbside pickup. I mean, where do you draw the priorities? Do we want police, fire, ambulance, highway services, or do we want somebody to pick up our trash?
All right, thank you. All right, we'll go to the second round now, and we'll start again with Mr. Gilman, and let's have the first question to Mr. O'Keefe.
Back in 1971, The Vietnam War was raging. Watergate was just a